And good evening. It's 7 o'clock and I call to order the regular council meeting of November 9th, 2021. Blackfalds Town Council acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, gathering space, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. First item is the adoption of the agenda for November 9th. Administration, do we have any additions?
Your Worship, from administration, just a couple of corrections. At 9.8 reads City of Lacombe Council meeting minutes, those should be County of Lacombe Council meeting minutes. There is no City of Lacombe, so we have two County of Lacombe Council meeting highlights, one from October 14th, one from 28th. And 9.9 should read 2021 Blackfalds Historical Society, not 2022.
Thank you. Council, do we have any additions? Deputy Mayor Cal?
Thank you. I'd like to add an item under information, 9.15 for Remembrance Day.
Thank you. We're going to have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Spaulding.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as amended.
All in favor? That's carried unanimously. We have no delegation, no public hearing, no business arising from the minutes. First business item 7.1, request for decision, Parkland Regional Library budget.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover and Council. Before you have the 2022 Parkland Regional Library budget request. Every year, the Parkland Regional Library prepares a budget document that's sent out to all of its members. This document highlights the planned changes and identifies potential increases that they're considering. Parkland requests members to approve the budget and budget submissions as it contains the requisition rates to be charged in the year. The 2022 budget document provides information regarding each line item of the budget. The changes in expenditures are very limited throughout 2022. Financial implications for the town is that the 2020, and similar to the 2021 requisition, was at $8.55. In 2022, they are proposing that $8.55 remain the same, which equates to around that $94,000 with the population just over 11,000. The administration recommendation tonight is the council move to accept the proposed budget by the Parkland Regional Library with the 2022 membership requisition at $8.55. And with that, is there any questions?
Thank you, Director DeBrusser. Anyone on council have any questions for administration or need any clarification? Councillor Spaulding.
I do have a question. Under Parkland Regional Library's points within the budget to note include, it mentions the provincial operating grant for systems is estimated using a 2016 population figures and calculated at the current rate of $470 per capita. The First Nations grant is assumed to continue using the 2016 population figures as well. And then it also says it is assumed the rural library service grant will also be issued at $555 per capita using 2016 population figures. Our census is probably a lot higher than 2016. So are we giving Parkland Regional Library on 2016 census, or are we giving them on our 2021 census?
Good question. I don't have their kind of background on how they formulated that. However, based on our current census, we have got in the budget that $94,000. Whether the requisition will come in that high, but as it stands, the 2022 in the town's budget is at that $94,000.
I'm just wondering, like, are we able to get some clarification from Parkland Regional Library on the provincial side of the grant, I guess?
Sure.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for administration? Seeking any information? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion. Deputy Mayor Pell?
Thank you. I'll move that council move to accept the proposed budget by the Parkland Regional Library with the 2022 membership requisition at $8.55.
Thank you. Anyone have comments, debate, questions? Based on the motion? Seeing that, I call the vote. Councillor Stende.
Through the chair to Councillor Staub, were you hoping to have that information before voting on this tonight?
I'm not sure if the money that we give to Parkland Regional Library is part of the provincial grants, or if it's just money that we give to them that they use for their area. So I really feel we need some clarification. How long do we need to give them back this information on what we approved?
We're actually behind the eight ball with this. I think the Parkland Regional requires 2/3 of the members to approve this requisition rate as per the bylaws of the library. In saying that, if you don't approve it tonight, I assume that there's already 2/3 of the members already approved this budget, so the requisition will still come through at $8.55 regardless of the provincial grant. To kind of clarify, if I understand correctly, our portion of the money going to has nothing to do with the provincial requisition, if that makes sense.
Deputy Mayor Pell.
Thank you. So through the chair, through to Councillor Staub, because now I have another question. Are you looking to pay more to the library or pay less?
Councillor Staub.
No, I was just wanting to know about the provincial grant compared to what we're doing with Parkland Regional Library, just to have it clarified, right? So
Okay.
at least if we can get the provincial side of the grant clarified later on, that would be great to have that information.
Gotcha.
So we do have a motion. I mean, we could accept an alternative motion if someone feels that we need more information, which would be addressed in that order. Any new motions? Councillor Staub.
I do, there, it's working. I'm just wondering if this is an issue with other municipalities, if maybe this is something we could discuss at AUMA with some of our other partners and our communities, because maybe the provincial government needs to look at changing from a 2016 population standpoint to something more current, because our population has grown so much over the years, and I just think that it's not fair for Blackfalds and other communities that are growing to not get all the benefits that we should be getting.
Okay, thank you. I'll each had opportunity to comment on this. The only thing that we would entertain at this point would be a new motion. My understanding is this wouldn't, any information from provincial grant would not impact our budget for this, correct?
Correct.
So that said, if there's no additional motions, anyone else have debate or comment before I call the question? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. 7.2, request for decision proclamation for Family Violence Month. We'll be speaking on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Family Violence Prevention Month started in 1986 as a local initiative in the town of Hinton, where 4 remarkable Albertans, Catherine Kennedy, Sonia Bennett, Faye Wheeler, and Glenda Carter, formed the Hinton Society for the Prevention of Family Violence and launched Alberta's first family violence education and prevention campaign. The Society's goals were to draw public attention to the issue and to evoke positive change in their community. This led to expanding local supports and services for individuals and families in the areas of prevention, protection, and rehabilitation. At a time when family violence was never talked about publicly, these courageous women inspired the Alberta legislature to recognize every November as Family Violence Prevention Month in Alberta. Today, their legacy continues. Hundreds of Alberta communities and thousands of individuals are actively involved in preventing family violence by providing public education services. In Canada, during 2019, there was a 13% increase in family violence compared to prior years. By providing education and services, we hope to reduce the percentage and spread awareness regarding family violence. The color purple has been used for many years all over the world in support of family violence prevention. It's also the color of our campaign here in Alberta. Blackfalds first declared November as Family Violence Prevention Month in 2017 as the municipality continues to stay engaged with the regional vision for Nonviolence Coalition with 1,600 regional community partners. The acknowledgement of the impact that family violence has on our residents and communities remains important. Blackfalds is committed to its families, and through this proclamation can increase awareness of the importance of everyone living in a safe place both in and out of their homes. Other opportunities planned in the community to raise awareness of Family Violence Prevention Month include trees that are lit up purple to municipal offices accompanied by red silhouettes. The red silhouettes are a symbol of domestic abuse and family violence. Information available with banners and brochures at the Abbey Center. All municipal staff and council are invited to participate in World Child Day on Friday, November 20th by wearing colored blue. In addition, during Bullying Awareness Week, November 15th and 19th, the FCSS is sharing messaging with the local schools for inclusion in their regular activities. Therefore, administration's recommendation that council declare November as Family Violence Prevention Month.
Thank you. Does anyone in council require any new information? Have any questions for administration before we table a motion? Councillor Schwab. Or Councillor Steady, sorry.
I'm prepared to declare on behalf of council, November is Family Violence Prevention Month.
Thank you. Do we have any comments, questions today? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Thanks so much. Item 7.3, municipal by-election, bylaw 1263.21.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover and Council. Before you, you had the by-election bylaw 1263.21. As you're aware, we're heading into a by-election. It is legislated by the Local Authorities Election Act that the by-election must be held within 120 days of the council member vacancy. In order to hold a by-election, council must pass a resolution to determine the roles of returning officer, substitute returning officer, dates of nomination day, and bylaw election day, special ballots, which are mail-in, and the approval of a by-election bylaw. In October, under the general municipal election, was conducted by the returning officer Darrell E. Butler and substitute returning officer Alina Van Winson. Due to the timing of the operating budget work to be completed by the manager Butler, administration is proposing that executive assistant Alina Van Winson be appointed returning officer and Darrell E. Butler be appointed substitute returning officer for the by-election. Nomination day, administration is proposing December 13th at noon for nomination day. Advance vote day, administration is recommending that an advance vote day be set for Saturday, January the 8th, 2022, from 10 o'clock to 6 p.m. in the council chambers of the city centre. By-election day. The by-election day is proposed for Monday, January 10th, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the council chambers. This will allow enough time for nomination period, which is 4 weeks, to occur to ensure administration meets the advertising requirements for nomination day and by-election day in 2 weeks. Mail-in ballots, similar to what we did in the general election, the special ballot package must be requested by January 7th at 4:30 and returned to the Civic Centre by 4:30 on January 10th for the vote to be counted. The by-election bylaw must be passed by council. An updated by-election bylaw is being presented to council tonight. This outlines and updates the process we used in October 2021 for the municipal general election. However, it's very similar to the municipal election bylaw 1251.20. This bylaw has been updated to legislate that in case of a by-election, the council sets the resolution date for by-election day. Similar to what we did in October, administration is planning on using the same ES and S tabulators, and these worked out very efficiently and accurately. Financial implications, this by-election will cost around $4,500, and that includes the tabulator services, printing the ballots, and other such costs such as election workers. We do have 7 recommendations in front of us. I won't read them all out, but the first one is just to nominate the returning officer and substitute returning officer. The second motion is the dates that we need to establish. The third motion is to receive the special ballots in writing, and motions 4, 5, 6, and 7 are the first, second, and third reading of the bylaw plus an unanimous vote to go to third reading. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. And just to clarify for those new members on council, the extra motions in terms of adopting the bylaw first, second, and third reading, in order to go to a third reading, we do need to have unanimous consent from council in order to do that, just so you understand why there's that motion, third motion. So any questions or need for clarification from administration? Deputy Mayor Pell?
Thank you. Through the chair to Manager Professor. My question is there any way that we could, and I know it's tricky in there because we've got holidays into the beginning of January often for people, but is there any way we could have more space between the advanced vote day and actual election day? My only thought is if we don't know for certain when the special ballots will be ready, that people who work out of town won't have enough time. If they're gone for that weekend, there's a good chance they're also gone on the Monday in order to vote.
Great question. I'm here presenting on behalf of Manager Butler and Van Woodson. In saying that, I will have to think about it. I think there was a reason why it was January 8th, which would probably tie into the Christmas period and New Year's period, so it's the first weekend after the New Year. So in saying that, we wanted to have a advanced vote on a weekend. I wouldn't be opposed, and maybe through to CAO Thompson, 2 advanced vote days.
I guess I would suggest that council approve these dates as indicated. Following tonight's meeting, we will revisit that with manager with Darrell and see if we can make some changes, and if we can, we will bring that back to the next council meeting. That's okay with me.
I guess Councillor Slobson.
Actually, I think Councillor Pell for bringing that up, because I feel with COVID, it would be beneficial to our residents to be able to have an extra day, somewhere maybe a week before the date of voting, just so if people do get COVID, hopefully they'll still be able to come out after being on their 10 or 14 days of being at home. So hopefully, because I know from being out and campaigning in the election, there were people who had missed the federal election because of it.
So my understanding is that this would be something that we could bring up again. This is not set in stone in terms of a bylaw. We can revisit dates.
Yeah, definitely we can revisit the dates. I think the crux of what you're getting in front of you tonight is get the process going with the advertising and once the resolution's passed, the process is going. So we definitely can bring it back to the late meeting.
Thanks. Through the chair, just for clarifications, we would leave the election date as is because we have to start advertising that, but we could potentially add additional advanced voting.
Correct.
Correct? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So just for the purpose of beginning, as I agree, we need to get this ball rolling. The holiday season does tend to turn things upside down in terms of getting processes done. We have budgeting coming up, so clearly our workload is already piling up. So at this point, I will entertain the first motion. Councillor Swab.
I'll move that council move to appoint Kalina Van Winson as the returning officer for the 2022 by-election and Darrell Lee as the substitute returning officer.
Thank you. Do I have any debate or comments? All in favor? And that is unanimous. And I have a second motion recommended by administration. Councillor Stendy.
I will move that council approve the dates for by-election as follows. Nomination day, December 13th, 2021 until noon. Advanced vote to be determined by administration, including January 8th from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. and by-election day, January 10th from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m.
Thank you. Any comments or debate? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Third motion. Councillor Sands.
I'll move that council direct administration to receive special ballot requests in writing by telephone, fax, email, or in person. And furthermore, that special ballots must be requested by January 7th at 4:30 p.m. and returned by January 10th at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you. Any debate, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is also carried unanimously. Fourth motion. Councillor Dennis.
I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw 1263.21, a bylaw to provide for the by-election in the town of Blackfalds.
Any debate or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Fifth motion, which is giving second reading. Councillor Sabal.
I'll move that council give second reading to bylaw 1263.21, a bylaw to provide for a by-election in the town of Blackfalds.
Any comments or debates? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Third motion would need to be unanimous in order to carry this to a third and final reading. Deputy Mayor Stent, or Deputy Mayor Pell, I'll get these positions right.
That's all right. I move the council agrees to proceed with the third and final reading of 1263.21, a bylaw to provide for a by-election in the town of Blackfalds.
Any comments or debates? All in favor? And that is unanimous, so we will carry to a seventh motion, give third and final reading. Councillor Sands.
I move that council give third and final reading to bylaw 1263.21, a bylaw to provide for a by-election in the town of Blackfalds.
Thank you. Any debate or comments? So before I call the question, I'm excited that we can finally address this. I look forward to seeing a good, healthy by-election, so with some healthy competition. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you so much. 7.4, Council Remuneration and Compensation Policy, 156.
Thank you, Worship.
2.1.
2021, the town of Blackfalds undertook a council remuneration and compensation review to determine rates for 2021 through 2025 council members. Council Remuneration Review Committee was formed through appointment of citizen representation at the June 22nd, 2021 regular meeting of council. The citizen members were assisted by members of administration and representatives of Hillcrest Financial Consultants who undertook a survey and analysis for the council remuneration process. On July 5th, the Remuneration Committee was presented with information by Hillcrest Financial, which compared council compensation benefits to 12 comparator communities that were in a range of plus or minus 10% of the municipal measurement index provided by Municipal Affairs. The Remuneration Review Committee made the following recommendations at the regular council meeting on August 10th. These recommendations for rates and benefits as provided in the request for decision were implemented by formal resolution on August 10th. The draft council remuneration and compensation policy 15621 as attached was updated to reflect these resolutions and is required to be formally approved by council. Attached is a marked up copy of the policy as well as a clean copy of the policy as well. I would identify the fact that in Appendix A of the procedure, Section 5, the health spending account, there's a typo. It reads $425, it should be $475. Tonight, council is recommending approval of the council remuneration policy 156.21 as presented.
Thank you. Any questions for administration? Any need for clarification? So I do want to comment, it was something that I did bring your attention that, just so the public knows that even though there's a typo in the policy, and there was typo in the presentation that came to council, the actual motion was adopted with the correct figure, 475. So there would be no need to amend anything at this point, other than perhaps minutes that were adopted previously.
You're right. Great.
Thank you. So I will accept a motion to accept this policy that has already, content has already been accepted by council. Councillor Stenday.
I'll move that council approve council remuneration policy 156.21 as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, debate? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Item 7.5, Town Facility Access Restrictions Exemption Program.
Your worship, Manager Morrison will present this item, and Quentin Schatz with AHS, the Public Health Inspector and Executive Officer, will take the podium as well with Manager Morrison to respond to any questions that council may have.
Thank you so much, Manager Morrison. Quentin, welcome. Appreciate your presence.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. Quentin Schatz has graciously donated his time this evening to come and provide any answers, should you have any after presentation. I want to make sure that everybody is fully aware and has all the information they can. Hopefully we gave enough information in the package, so everybody, and with the new council here present, so I was hoping to be able to have well-informed council. So just briefly, on September 15, 2021, province declared a state of public health emergency and the fourth wave of COVID-19. September 16th, throughout the province, new measures and restrictions were put in place with a focus on stopping the spread and vaccination rates. With these new measures, the province gave the date of September 20th for in-scope businesses, entities, and events to implement one of two options. So we were, as a town, were faced with two options to make for our facilities. One was the restrictions exemption program, where business entities and events which chose this would require clients to provide proof of vaccination or negative test results plus mandatory masking. This would allow them to continue to operate per usual, full capacity, masking, but they wouldn't face all the other requirements of distancing and whatnot. The other option was comply with public health restrictions as outlined in Order 44/2021, which would require operation at 1/3 capacity, maintaining physical distancing and wearing of masks. On September 16th, in answer to this, Town of Blackfalds Emergency Management Agency met to discuss the direction which would be best for the town facilities. The agency decided to make recommendations to the Emergency Management Committee for the town to move forward with 1/3 capacity and follow the health restrictions outlined in Order 44/2021. On September 17th, the Emergency Management Committee met and voted on moving ahead with the implementation of 1/3 capacity regulations for all town facilities. It was felt at that time 1/3 capacity option was the best option for the residents of Blackfalds as well as the employees. The The agency believed this would allow the municipality to run most activities where separate entrances were available in the facility. This decision was made to ensure the most diverse and inclusive use of facilities, while ensuring guidelines were in place to maintain the health of both residents and staff. One of the stipulations within the 1/3 capacity rule, which we became aware of fairly quickly, was that group adult activities were not able to take place within the facility unless the rep was utilized, and following all rules associated with rep. This rule has subsequently prevented our sports teams from playing. This is as a result, Alberta Health Services considered allowing 1/3 capacity and running rep at the same time in the same facility, a hybrid system. Adult hockey teams, rec league, pickleball players, and other adult group organized physical activities are not allowed to participate, for example, in the Abbey Centre at present, just due to the layout of the facility. The decision to move to 1/3 capacity also affected, at that time, Blackfalds Bulldogs, as some players were over the age of 18 and therefore not allowed to play. AHS further advised concessions were not permitted, so the food concessions, to open and serve dine-in service within the facilities. While they can be open, they can only be open for takeout services under the 1/3 capacity rule. The lack of ability to operate adult organized physical activities is adversely affecting residents who rely on our facilities for physical activities. This municipality has heard from groups organizing pickleball and other groups organizing adult hockey and other adult activities that are occurring throughout the town on a normal day. This decision has created a hardship for them as they have to travel outside their community to remain physically active. On October 6, 2021, the Emergency Management Agency met to discuss town facilities and the effect the 1/3 capacity was having. This meeting resulted in a recommendation to the Emergency Management Committee that consideration be given to recommend council move to rep immediately for the Youth Builders Center. Doing this would allow adult sports and other adult group activities to occur in the facility and for the concession to be open within the building for dine-in services. This would have further allowed the local business running the concession to operate fully. On October 8, 2021, the Emergency Management Committee met. 2 recommendations came from this meeting. One was to write a letter to the province and asking them to not download onto municipalities, businesses, and residents. That was carried unanimously. Second recommendation came forward was for administration to bring the rep and 1/3 issue back to council on October 12th, regular council meeting for further discussion. That was carried unanimously as well. Carried. On October 12th, 2021, at a regular council meeting, the issue of moving the Eagle Building Center to a rep facility was brought forward. Council was provided with the minutes from the Emergency Management Committee and their recommendation to have council decide on this matter. At that time, a presentation to council on the request to move from 1/3 capacity to rep at the EBC, a motion was put forward to move from 1/3 capacity facility to a rep, and this motion was defeated. Subsequently, a motion to move the Abbey Center from 1/3 capacity to rep facility was put forward and defeated. With both motions voted on and defeated, facilities did not change from 1/3 capacity. The choice to open all town facilities at 1/3 capacity has resulted in many residents being disadvantaged, as well as large financial loss to both the town and local business owners. Community center within the town has been limited in the activities they can operate. GMO biweekly activities, FCS organized movie events, youth programming, which included parents, and Monster Bash, for example, some of the activities which have been adversely affected within our facilities running at 1/3 capacity. The multiplex, now known as the Eagle Center Arena, running at 1/3 capacity has resulted in adult hockey not being able to operate within the facility, and players are going to other communities. I should note at this time that 1/3 capacity does not affect youth or moving to rep, does not affect the youth under 18. Okay, they still are out of scope, and they do not have to provide their vaccination. The only thing that would happen by moving to rep in a facility with youth programs would be that the parents or spectators do have to follow, if it's a rep facility, do have to follow the rep regulations, i.e. showing the vaccine, proof of vaccine. 1/3 capacity, we've been running with it, and youth activities have been occurring, organized physical activities and stuff. We have schools attending and at the Abbey Center and whatnot as well. We've got minor hockey activities occurring. In our letter dated October 12th, the Bulldogs advised the decision to not implement the REP program will affect their relationship with external partners as well as limiting the guaranteed revenue stream to the town of Blackfalds. Since this time, on October 28th, a interpretation has come out from Alberta Health Services with a ruling which indicates the Bulldogs can implement the REP and operate fully if they are the only users of the facility. So this can also be utilized for, say, other activities, i.e. say, hockey tournament, adult hockey tournament, whatnot. As long as they're the only users of that facility, they can declare rep. And the Bulldogs, that's their whole league runs with the restrictions exemption program, and they will operate under a rep program if they are in that facility, and they will own that arena at that time. The library, again, out of scope, so the activities can continue there. And the fact that the arena is, or the users of the arena at that time have declared rep, doesn't affect the library in any shape or fashion as long as we're keeping the two apart. So really, the arena can run at 1/3 capacity and still effectively operate with adult activities, but they would have to declare the rep program at that time, each time they operate their function. So the Bulldogs have full intention, they are a rep program, and every time they have a game, they will be running under the rep. So it will still, staying at 1/3 will still affect, say, adult hockey, unless they do actually implement rep for every game and activity that they choose to do there. Correct me anytime if I'm wrong there, Quentin. With our EDC facility operating at 1/3 capacity and not rep, the concession is unable to operate for dine-in services. Spectator numbers are limited as well. By implementing the rep, this would allow full access for those groups utilizing the facility in its entirety while ensuring all health restrictions are adhered to. And again, I go back to that, if at the time the function that is being put on declares rep, then those activities can still occur. The concession can open and whatnot, as long as they're following rep at the time. But that would be a 1/3 capacity facility. The Abbey Center has had to postpone or cancel all adult organized activities as a result of being at 1/3 capacity. They don't have the luxury of some of their rooms and areas being accessible without interaction with other people. We have been able to successfully run Mary Market. We had a badminton tournament that did declare rep, and it was able to run. But again, that's a large group in one, taking over one area. With yoga, pickleballs, and those adult activities that we organize regularly for our residents, currently those activities cannot occur with us being 1/3 capacity at the Abbey Center, which is affecting a lot of our residents. I'll move up to that. Down just a bit there, please. Good. As a result of a lot of the cancellations, the recent Recreation, Culture and Parks Board, at their latest meeting, they did pass a motion at their November 3rd meeting in support of implementing the REP program. Resolution 6021, Councillor Stendy moved that the Recreation, Culture and Parks Board moves to bring this item forward to Council as an encouragement to accept the REP program. That motion was carried unanimously. By moving forward and implementing the REP throughout all town facilities, it will ensure there's no confusion to residents or patrons attending any of our facilities. We will be able to utilize our recreation areas for what they're intended to. As I said, the one benefit to implementing 1/3 capacity throughout would be there would be no confusion at all, but there is the capability to do one-offs throughout our facilities, but this building is 1/3 and that one's REP. We will be required to monitor our facilities, which may result in additional hours to staff as a result of declaring REP at any of our facilities. And as well, when our renters are declaring REP or renting the facility, we still are responsible for those facilities. So we have to ensure that they are following the regulations put in place, whether it is 1/3 capacity or it is REP. Financial implications by not moving to the REP program could be substantial due to the loss of revenue from all organized adult activities throughout the town, which are not permissible in a facility running at 1/3 capacity. There may be some increase in costs associated in extra hours for staff. This will be monitored accordingly. We've also looked at possibly hiring security. Some of the municipalities around us have security at the front, checking for passports or other regulations associated with the whichever restrictions we put in place. At this time, the administrative recommendations would be that council approve the change in status of all town facilities from 1/3 capacity to the restrictions exemption program, or that council approve the change in status of the Eagle Building Center, Abbey Center, to REP from 1/3 capacity, and the community center, I should say. Or that council approve the change in status of the Abbey Center and the community center from 1/3 capacity to the restrictions exemption program. Or finally, that council recommend facilities remain at 1/3 capacity.
Thank you, Manager Morrison.
For questions?
I have no doubt that there'll be questions from council. So, Councillor Stendy, I saw first.
So through the chair, a comment was made that it won't affect kids playing hockey, but I received a message from a resident saying they are on the U11 tournament committee, and there are major concerns if the REP program is not implemented because they think they are going to have issues with capacity limits. Kids are basically only going to be allowed one parent coming into the rink with them, no siblings, which means single parents who have more than one child would not be able to enter the rink without paying for a sitter. Grandparents wouldn't be able to attend, or anyone else, in order to watch these kids play. She is very, very concerned about what it means for the youth and holding events in the Eagle Builder Center if we were to not implement the REP. So my question is, given the fact that the Bulldogs for their games are able to implement the REP for their games, would our youth be able to do the exact same thing when they have events and tournaments?
Feel that? So, first of all, the youth themselves, they're exempt, right? So regardless if your facility is under REP or non-REP, it doesn't impact what they're doing on the ice themselves. If you're in REP, that means the parents get screened at the door. You can have as many as you want there, right? If you're in non-REP, that just means you just have to be 1/3 capacity and distancing between 2 meters. The greater restriction of like only one parent per child, that exceeds what Alberta Health's requirements are. So like organizations are allowed to be more stringent than what the legislation is. In this case, it sounds like it is, but it actually exceeds what we require.
Subsequent?
So just to clarify then, because their tournaments, and I've been at tournaments, they generally fill the stands.
Yeah.
So the concern is that with the 1/3, these organizations are having no choice but to say you can only have one parent attend with
Oh,
you.
okay, so that's what the restriction is to keep it in the 1/3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
then that's the kind of the choice they made to keep it under that one.
Okay.
but I would think that we would be able to, for a tournament, declare rep.
For a tournament, what we don't want to see is kind of yo-yoing of events. If a non-REP facility can rent out to an REP event, and basically, upon screening at the entrance, all activities beyond that would have to be separate from each other, including amenities. So, for example, like your arena here, they got a library there. That's out of scope. That's non-REP. So, upon entering for your REP event, whether it be minor hockey or Bulldogs or wherever, you'd have to have like a separate entrance and separate washrooms for the library. And then the REP, separate entrance and separate washrooms for the users that, and then you can just pack it. Really, the only requirement would be mask use.
So just a point of clarification. So what I'm hearing you say, I think, is that yes, these organizations, should they be hosting a tournament, could implement the REP themselves.
They could implement
Okay,
the REP.
perfect, thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't clear.
Thank you. I saw Councilor Slot next.
Okay, I'm going to the Abbey Center and I have about 5 or 6 questions on it. And first of all, there's some of the questions that I asked at the rec board meeting. I think that would be great to bring back. So my first question, and I don't know if you can answer this, Manager Morrison, but
Yes.
I was wondering, which I know the answer to, what is the capacity of the Abbey Center now at 1/3 capacity in the gym or in the weight area?
The exact number?
Yes.
Capacity, actually, you caught me off guard with that. Because we just went through that again here, so I don't have the exact number. Because we've divided up throughout the building. I don't know. CEO Thompson, if you have those numbers up.
No, I don't.
Or-
Yeah.
Let's sneak in here.
I'm suggesting you stay up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Fieldhouse Gymnasium, our capacity is 433 people. For our fitness center is 200 people. For a walking track was well over a number that we would never exceed, so, yeah.
And then my next question is, how many memberships have we lost because of being at 1/3 capacity?
It's hard to know how many people have said, okay, we're at 1/3, therefore I'm not coming back. And likewise on the other end, because, if we were to be Because we are 1/3, people saying, hey, we gotta come to Blackfalds now, but we don't know that number either. We always have a certain number of people that come from Red Deer, Lacombe, all surrounding communities, right? So it's hard to know that number.
Thank you. And then my next question is, if we do not implement the REP program at the Abbey Center, I know it's affected some of our programs for kids. What would happen with the breakfast lunch with Santa? Are we allowed to serve food? Are we not allowed to serve food? Does it just reduce the capacity by 1/3?
No, we're not allowed to serve food. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Quentin, but with 1/3 capacity, you can't have dine-in.
So we would have to cancel breakfast and lunch with Santa, basically. Okay.
I'm gonna give someone else an opportunity to ask a question. We can come back to you, Councillor Slaughter. Did I see any other hands for questions? And you've already asked just in case there's someone else before that. Yes, Councillor Dennis.
When we talked about the Eagle Builders Center for the tournament for children, if we hosted it in the Bay rink, 1/3 of the capacity probably would be sufficient for the tournament and not limit people coming into it, because it will hold so much more people than just the old part of the arena. In my
Is that a question or is that a comment?
a comment.
Okay, this is an opportunity to get clarification.
Okay.
Questions
Sorry.
or comments or debate would come after there's a motion on the table. Any other questions for administration? I did see Councillor Stendy.
So I did ask this in the rec board meeting, but I think it's important for all of council to hear the answer to it. How many programs have we had to cancel because of being in 1/3? Like I had a quick look and it looked to me as though it was over 25, but I'm sure you have a more accurate.
25 classes were lined up for the fall. These have been canceled. 3 of those classes were 12 people each, for a total of 36. 2 classes at 8 people, 16 people, 20 classes at 20 people. So that's 452 people a week that would be affected as a result. There's 7 in-house fitness classes with a potential of 140 people per week. Now those are if they were filled to capacity. Okay. That's at the Abbey Center. Everything?
No, that sounds right. Just one thing to add with that is that we do allow drop-in access, and that number is hard to predict, but you can have people drop in and fill those classes that are not full.
Okay, to see Deputy Mayor Pell had her hand up here. I'll give her opportunity before we go back to the others.
Thank you. So it's just a follow-up to the question about the Abbey Center capacity. So the programs that do run, so not the drop-in ones, but the programs that require registration, those, so the ones that are held upstairs in the program rooms, as those require registration beforehand and it's a closed off room area, would that not be applicable as a rep if we're renting up? Because we don't have staff that teach all of those classes. Sometimes we hire people to do like the drumming or something, for example. So would those not fall under like scenario 2 as someone's renting out that room to teach their class?
The problem with that is getting them to that area because they're small rooms within the facility, so the people have to move throughout the rest of the building. And as Quentin said earlier, as long as they're divided, they're separate entrances like the library and whatnot. So
Kind of the terminology we like to use is that they're self-contained. And there's no mingling between those who are in rep and those who are not in rep. So a bunch of small rooms because you have a big common area and they share the amenities of washrooms, that's probably not very applicable in that scenario.
Thank you for the clarification.
So just on that note, since you're bringing it up, in terms of if we're looking at the Eagle Builder Center, there is a common vestibule that would be, that people would come in before they choose to go in Eagle Builder Center Arena 1 or the library. Is that an issue if there's a common
Basically,
area entrance?
that's the distinguish has to be made after point of screening. So
Okay.
you screen at the entrance, people with the library.
So
And then
people
they
can
kind
come
of
in as long as there's another screening point that prevents people
Right,
past that common vestibule, then they need to be screened.
right, and then they're not sharing the same washroom.
Okay, and so I think Councillor Stendy, did you have a subsequent? And then-
I did actually, I had a subsequent, so if we can just take a step back to the programs. You mentioned classes, but you didn't talk about events that have been canceled, for example, the Monster Bash, some of our kids' events, things like that. Do we have numbers for those?
Yes, I do. Monster Bash was canceled due to the restrictions and usually holds around 200 attendees. Youth programming activities, although this 1/3 capacity had the restrictions put in place, have allowed some youth programming to continue. For example, the mother and daughter and mother and son workshops were canceled as adults were unable to participate. These sessions would have had 40 participants in total. And that's just some of the examples that have been provided of some of the activities that result in cancellation. If you go into the seniors programming, you've got the drop-in walking club. As they all come together, that was canceled, and that was expected attendance about 10 plus each day. This club was to take place on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting in September. Another item that was canceled was It's More Than Just a Movie. September 22nd and October 20th, missed, potentially 40 people there. Some of the Chimo Club activities, if we want to go into the community center, total affected 36 per week. Participant range between 10 and 14, averaging about 12. For example, carpet bowling Mondays, Friday gatherings, 8 have been missed there. Thursday card night games, and activities such as that. Again, you know, our vulnerable population, the seniors, are finding themselves limited in some of the activities they can do as a result.
Councillor Appel was
Councillors,
Okay, still with the Abbey Center. So I did attend the fall market. If the Merry Market was put on, if we put Abbey Center at rep, can the winter market, Christmas market go at 1/3 capacity, or if the Abbey Center is at rep, do they have to follow suit?
So when you're in a rep facility, typically you're not allowed to rent out to anything with a couple of exemptions. One is if you're out of scope. And so the market is considered retail, they're out of scope, so you're allowed to rent to them, just like you would youth activity because they're out of scope. So then you can rent to them, but you just have to provide the separation as well.
And they could go 1/3 capacity if they're rep?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
considered retail, so they're out of scope.
Okay,
So you can, an REP facility can rent to out of scope.
okay. And then, okay, so for school participating at the Abbey Center, the kids from 12 to 18, is it?
Yes,
They can go,
they can still
There's-
continue their programs.
okay. Now, if they're coming after school or out of school activities, do they have to bring in a vaccination passport?
That is where it gets a little complicated, I think. If, as I read it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if they're doing group youth activities, they're still okay under 18. But I'll let
So
Quentin.
is this assuming that it's an REP facility?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
So there's 2 avenues you can take. For the 12 to 17-year-olds, you can request their vaccine passport. In which case, when they go by that line, they don't have to social distance at any time. They just gotta mask up when they're not in physical activity. If you don't request their vaccine passport, then they have to social distance while in common areas. It doesn't make a lot of sense, including, the change rooms and stuff. Then when they engage in physical activities, they don't have to social distance.
And then the ones that don't have Alberta ID, because I've noticed at other facilities, they ask for government official ID. What do you do in that case? Because mostly 12 to 14
Well,
year olds don't have.
Coming November 15th was a short period, we'll be going to the QR code exclusively.
Okay.
So all the information will be provided on that, and it'll be a straightforward scan and check marks and everything.
And then my last question or comment is because if the Abbey Center does go as a rep, I think our workers in the Abbey Center probably take on a lot right now with having to ask people to put their masks on. Is there able to have security or a worker at the door since our desk is so far back so that they're able to scan the vaccination passports? Or how are we gonna monitor that to make sure that all the guests that come into the Abbey Center have gone through that process?
I can answer that. So the plan going forward, if we were to go to rep, would to create the similar, we call it a chute kind of towards the guest services desk. And from there, we would have our apps on the iPad minis and we would basically check for verification there and just kind of monitor that front door. Having said that, we do expect to have some disgruntled people and upset people, and it would be nice to have some of that backup support for sure, but we do realize there is a cost to that too.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
C.O. Thompson.
I just wanted to mention the capacity of the Eagle Builder Center on the ice surface within the seating area, and the other areas around 470 people at 1/3 capacity. That doesn't include the inside areas, the viewing areas inside. So that was confirmed by the fire department. And I was told that the older arena had much less. It's about 75 people in the seating area, and that does not include the lobby or the upstairs portion. So with a hockey tournament, that might be a little bit restrictive in the older ice surface, but definitely the Eagle Builder Center has plenty of capacity for any youth games, tournament practices, that sort of thing.
Deputy Mayor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair, Manager Morrison, my question goes back to when you were discussing the seniors at the Chimo Club meeting at the community center. Now, when they meet at the community center, that time is allotted for them. They are renting that facility. So is there a reason that they haven't been able to implement reps for the time that they're renting that facility?
Because there is potential for other activities occurring in other parts of the building, is my understanding. I don't rent facilities, but my understanding is that there's other spots throughout the building that are rented out by our town as well, so.
Right, except they're closed off because their space with their little kitchen is completely closed off from the rest of the building when they have it, from what I understand, when I
guess that again, it would go back to entry and washroom facilities and whatnot as well, shared facilities, again. So, I don't believe the community center is set up in a fashion that we'd be able to have 4 or 5 different activities occurring at one time with all having their own amenities. I don't believe.
Okay, because I'd be interested to know, I know that the parent link side of the building is nowhere near as well used as it had been in the past. And as well, I don't know how often the main part of the community hall is rented during the day, when these meetings are. So
Yes.
I would be interested in hearing about, if there's a way, because parent link, it's been a while since I've been in there, so someone please let me know if I'm incorrect. But I believe there are washrooms inside of their part of the hall, and then the large part of the hall has their own washrooms, and then there's the washrooms in the hallway that would be used for the back room for the Chimo area.
As far as I know, most of the washrooms are in a common area. I don't know if there might be a single washroom, I can't remember in the parent.
Yes. I think there's over in the parent link there is, but,
They do have to.
Your worship, we can look into that a little further and investigate.
Thank you.
I see Councillor Stenday.
I can provide a little bit of clarification on that just because my children are in there all the time. They do use the large part of the gym frequently for youth programming, including BYC, the youth crew. And I believe they also run things like the Home Alone classes occasionally over there and the babysitters classes when they can't run them at the Abbey. And there are just washrooms in that one big main portion. So it would be shared washrooms for the entire facility. There is one small bathroom off of the parent link, but that's it. So having a function with 12 kids who all need to access the bathroom, chances are they're gonna end up having to go out to use the main ones. So just a little clarification on the building. And then sorry, I have so many questions. The child minding, I know has been affected because we can't run programming, and that's a huge part of our child minding dollars. Do we have an estimate on budget-wise how much we've lost through the child minding by not being able to run programs?
I don't have an estimate, but I can say that it's definitely lower than if we would have had running programs for sure. Generally, our mornings would be, a lot of parents kind of vying for that 9:30 spot. So we've definitely seen it hit their budget, like financially for sure.
Okay. And just further, so in regards to things like the Christmas market, we do in the Abbey Center have a gym, a walking track, and other things as well. Would those all have to be closed for the day in order for the market to go ahead at 1/3 if that was an REP facility? Whoever wants to take it.
I don't believe so. We did the Merry Market, okay, which was effectively just the gym area, like that whole area. They owned that. And it was cordoned off, and that's where they went. So, correct me if I'm wrong here too, because that's where they're supposed to.
When we ran the Merry Market, the whole building was 1/3, so it was a little bit easier to monitor that. However, if we were to have a rep facility and a 1/3 market, one of the options could be that we could utilize one of the outside double doors, man doors, for direct in and out, just for the market.
Okay. Okay.
Councillor Stossel.
Okay, now I'm jumping to the arena because I'm satisfied with the Abbey Center and the community hall questions. So I know there's lots of people in our community worried about free skate if we stay at 1/3 capacity and it being just for our residents and not for outside residents. How could we manage it so it's only Blackfalds residents using the free skate?
Again, I guess that's at the, how you siphon them out at the entrance as to ID and whatnot, and proof of who they are. Usually they're coming in with parents for the most part. And again, I would leave that to the facility operators as to how they're going to do that, but I'm sure it's definitely feasible.
So I know the Egg Society donates to that. Would we be able to get volunteers for that 1.5 to 2 hours where they could just ask for ID instead of using staff time? Or do we actually need to have a staff person on that?
Well, again, that's the semantics, I guess, of actually putting the plan in place.
Yeah.
If we do have volunteers, I mean, that's definitely an asset for sure. And we do have some excellent volunteers. I'm not sure if we have volunteers that would take on that. It's not the nicest of duties right now, sitting at and taking people's ID and their vaccine proof. But that's definitely something that would be looked at.
Okay.
We've also looked at other avenues of hiring, which again, we want to keep the costs down as much as possible. Still offer as much of the facilities as we can.
And then I guess my next question would be for Clinton, with the scan coming into place and people having to present their vaccine passport, is their personal information actually going anywhere? Is it just a quick scan? People are concerned about their
Yes.
personal information.
So it's a quick scan, it shows, no other information, it just shows if you've been double vaxxed, and does that by giving a check mark. I think it shows your last vaccination date. Sorry, I'm scourging my brain because it's been about a week since I've last seen it, but based on the app, within about 5 seconds, that information is basically self-erased, so there's no saving application in that app, so for kids in the 12 to 17 range, no, there's no other information that you can gather, like you can't gather any other, like if they've had a flu shot or have any other medical history, there's none of that you can gather.
And that information's not going anywhere that they've come in and.
No, it's specifically meant to basically erase itself, so one of the issues that they're having is erasing too quickly in a way before they can present it. I can dig up, I might even have clarification on here if you permit me to. And it displays the person's name, date of birth, and proof of vaccination, and that's all.
And then it deletes right away, so it's not carried on.
So I don't have the specific timeline, I think it was 5 or 10 seconds, but it deletes.
I appreciate your answer, thanks so much.
Councillor Stendy.
Through the chair, I just want to make a comment that I would caution running events like the free skate for Blackfalds only, just because we did just go through an RFP process. We have neighbors who contribute to that facility, Lacombe County,
Just point of,
and we would
point
like
of,
to maintain
point of
those
order,
relations.
Councillor Stendy, that's a comment, we can save those for once there's a motion on the table. We're asking for clarification from administration at this point. Questions for administration? Does anyone have questions for administration or require any more information before we have a motion on the table? Seeing that, I do have just a few questions myself in terms of clarification. Some of them were answered, which were in terms of how we're potentially, if we were to remain at the 1/3 capacity and we were to have organized functions. So for example, you used, in using the Abbey Center, for example, you had a badminton tournament that was able to declare a rep for that particular tournament. So clearly there is the ability for part of the facility to be declared as rep while other parts of the facility are still functioning, correct? The gym?
Yes, the large area, because they set up specific access, similar to what we would have to do in the arena for the library, where they're cordoned.
As long as they are going through a screening procedure.
Yes.
Now that said, is there a ability for the town to do that? So I mean, we're allowing other organizations to do that. Is there ability for the town to designate a particular day for a particular event that would benefit by having that as a rep organized event just for that particular event? Since we're allowing other tournaments and we're allowing markets to do that, is there any reason why we can't do that as a town ourselves?
In what capacity, like,
Okay, so basically in a non-rep facility, you can rent out to a private vendor or organization to implement rep. The town itself is not allowed to basically implement rep in the same way. I know it's a nuance, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's the way the Alberta government wrote the legislation, so renting out to rep in a non-rep facility can only be done to a private vendor.
You have a comment?
Thank you. Yes, I do. That actually raised another question for me then. So if we had a group that wanted to rent the field house in order for a particular sport, they would be able to do so.
if they rented the whole field house, yes.
If they rented the whole field house.
Because it would have to, again, there's those washrooms down there in the field house
Mhm.
that otherwise would be accessible by all people in the building.
Right, so
The
if
only
they were
other
to
way is to
rent,
shut the whole
if
building
they were
down.
to rent out, if say a group or team wanted to rent out the facility for the morning, they could rent the entire field house and they would be able to implement the rec program.
Yes.
Thank you. So another question of mine, I know that at a function, for example, the Monster Bash we did, based on the information at the time,
Yes.
we thought they were restricted, we canceled that event. Knowing what we know now, knowing that we have different abilities, would something like that event or a similar event be something we cancel now? Because that is generally youth. And again, maybe this is not necessarily something that you can answer, but perhaps administration can direct that to someone who can.
Knowing what we know now with 200 people, it's a lot of youth, but there's a lot of parents that do kind of show up as well at the Monster Bash, I believe. And I can't see. I guess I'd have to ask Quentin in some ways whether the Monster Bash is basically a party for youth, Halloween party.
Okay.
And you do have the adult volunteers and all that there. They have different activities and whatnot throughout the Monster Bash.
Yeah, so not being familiar with it at all, basically a family group could go there, parent, kids, just visualizing me and my 2 kids go in there. We could be all together, we'd have to distance our family from other households, 2 meters, 3 meters if it's a physical activity. And then you have to meet the 1/3 fire capacity guidelines. So I'm not sure if there's interactive activities between different groups or not, but if you could maintain the distancing and the 1/3 capacity, then I go ahead with
I think it would be very difficult, to run.
So knowing also that that might be challenging in the Abbey Center, is there opportunity? I know some of these things would typically be held in Abbey Center. If we were to designate, say, the community center as a rep facility, is it possible that some of these functions that would otherwise be canceled if the Abbey Center were not to be a rep facility, could they be held in the community center in the interim?
Absolutely, some of them, depending on size. Again, fire code capacity for the community center. I think possibly, and that's part of our argument discussion here today, is with the rep, it would allow those type of activities to occur in the facilities if we did declare rep, and the community center would be a perfect example. I think that's where the Monster Bash was held last time I was at it.
CCO Thompson's commenting.
No, I'm sorry, just on another matter, so, sorry.
Sorry. You have more to add?
No, Your Worship.
Councilor Standing.
Just a point of clarification, as someone who has attended every single Monster Bash since its inception, I think part of the problem is that you cannot have food and drink under the 1/3 capacity. And there is always candy and cookies and juice. It's a
Understood.
party for children.
Yeah, so that's why I'm inquiring is whether or not we can clear certain things as rep for those functions. That was already answered within the Abbey Center, whether or not something could be held in an alternative facility. So I do have just very briefly 2 other questions. So if we were to be administering, allowing or having to have staff that would be administering this, do we have the capacity or ability to add on to our fee structure in order to do that? I know that we've already set fees for rentals on facilities, but given that these are special circumstances, if we have an organization that is renting a facility, that they're obviously responsible for the rep, but we would have to administer and monitor that. Is this something that we can charge a fee during those rental fees? Yes, CEO Thompson.
We could look at that, but I think that might be a challenge to add additional fees, but it's definitely something that we can look at and report back to council.
Thank you. And then I just had one final question, and it has to do, if we are declaring rep in a facility and the people that aren't vaccinated that are obtaining, they would require a positive a negative rapid test, how long would those be valid for? My understanding is that it has to be within 3 days, but if someone obtains it, how many days could they use that?
72 hours.
72 hours, so 3 days essentially.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Hoover, just want to mention, I know there were some age groups that have been discussed over the last little while. So under the REP program, it would be 12 and older that would need to be fully vaccinated. So I just want to make sure the council knew that's the age group.
With the exception of youth activity.
Yeah, with youth activities, they would not have to be, but
But just day-to-day
Say they
use
wanted
or
to
drop-in
just-
use, they would need to be 12 and over, we need
For
vaccination.
example, if they came in for youth activity, did their thing in the gym, if they wanted to use some of the other fixed facilities, then they'd have to be vaccinated if it's not a REP facility, right? So
Okay, thank you. So this is, I'll give a final opportunity for anyone else that needs any clarification or has questions for administration before we table any motions. Anyone? Not seeing any. We do have some recommendations, however, council is free to consider other motions. Does anyone? Yes, Councilor Swab.
My motion is that council approve the change in status of the town facilities, the Abbey Center and the Community Center from 1/3 capacity to the restrictions exemption program.
Thank you. Do I have any comment or debates for that? Councilor Stenday.
I'd just like to ask for a recorded vote, please, and could you just read that back one more time for me?
My motion is that council approve the change in status of the Abbey Center and the Community Center from 1/3 capacity to the restrictions exemption program.
Thank you. Any other comments or debate on that motion? Deputy Mayor Pell.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't realize my mic was on. Thank you for that. Just a note, I will not be voting in favor of this motion as I cannot, in good favor, vote for any sort of program that permits segregation or discrimination of any people. And I know that the rapid test has been mentioned, but to think that a person, couple, or family needs to pay $50 plus GST every 3 days, plus the time off work to go get tested, to think that that is reasonable, I think is a privilege that not everyone has, and I know not a lot of families have. So I will not be voting in favor of this motion. Thank you.
So Councilor Swab.
So I do have some comments, and I appreciate everyone who has sent messages, emails, and blew up my messenger on Facebook today. I appreciate all your comments. So one person in our community is worried about the impact of current health restrictions on our community's seniors. Without the rep, they can no longer be a part of a regular seniors fellowship, whether to play games or just visit and support each other through this difficult time. Some of our seniors may also have limited mobility, transportation, or funds, or may not feel comfortable traveling out of town to attend activities in other communities. Without the rep, some seniors may continue to be isolated with impacts to their mental health and physical health and well-being. Another comment, I am also concerned with the impact of fundraising events which provide benefit to a broad spectrum of groups in the community, but often local children and youth organizations. The current public health restrictions mean that I'm no longer am able to attend adult activities by myself or with my friends, whether the activities are related to physical fitness or arts and cultural programming. The only option available to me through the town of Blackfalds at this time is to attend the Abbey to work out on my own. Some people have said, I do not believe that implementing the REP is the most beneficial for our residents and allows the broadest range of activities and supports to operate in Blackfalds. And the messages just keep going and going. So those are just some of the comments I wanted to share.
Thank you. Any other comments on Councilor Swab's motion? Not seeing any. I'm going to, actually, I'd like to make a motion myself. I would relinquish the Deputy Mayor Appel for that motion.
sorry?
Just
I would
point,
be relinquishing the chair to you for the time that I would be.
Oh,
yes,
yes,
point
sorry.
of order. We do have a motion on the floor that we
Yes,
have
and
to
we can
deal
have
with.
subsequent motions, which will be addressed in reverse order. So I will be making a motion to adopt the REP program for the community center and for all remaining facilities in the town of Blackfalds to remain at 1/3 capacity.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hoover, is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Stanley?
I'd request a recorded vote, please.
Certainly. So noted. Councillor Dennis?
One thing I'd like to see is what the cost is to implement that, to have the extra staff and everything. To have it laid out on the table, what are we losing for programs? What are we gonna have to pay for security, checking their backs and whatnot too?
Point of order. That would be something that should have been brought up before the motion was tabled. This is debate, and of course, you can have concerns about that, but at this point, we've already asked, unless we have a friendly amendment to that, that we were asking for that prior to a vote.
Well, I can ask Member Dennis, is that something you would officially like to ask administration at this point? If we were to table I'll say table the motions and proceed with asking the administration a question?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know the cost related to that.
Is that something we would be able to receive? Yes, CEO Thompson?
We do not have that information at this time. We would have the information that we would have to review and get back to council on at a later date.
So I'll say thank you to Councillor Dennis, and we will go back to the motion at hand, which was Mayor Hoover's, I'm sorry, Councillor Swab.
I can't gain
Oh,
access.
sorry. I have my.
Okay, so I'm just curious why my motion can't be voted on before yours. Is there not something in?
Based on the procedural bylaw, that we can have as many motions as we want. We will vote on your motion if other motions are defeated.
Any further discussion? Yes, Mayor Hoover.
Thank you. So the reason why I'm tabling this motion is the information that I'm hearing tonight is clearly different than when we addressed this in the first place. We have significant options, I believe, to accommodate most functions, particularly group functions. Some of these would also accommodate normal use. So if we're looking at the Abbey Center, we can have a part of the facility booked out that declares rep. So some of these larger organizations functions that are private organizations would be able to implement rep while the rest of the facility is still to be open for those that aren't vaccinated, which is a big concern on my part, because I have personally been contacted by numerous people, just like Councillor Swab, on both sides. We have people that feel that they're limited in terms of the activities that they can do without rep, and we have just as many people that for different reasons, some of them medical reasons, have not been able to be vaccinated, and their fear is that they would not have use of these facilities if we were to implement rep for the entire time. So I believe that having the community center set as a rep facility would allow a lot of the seniors functions that are held there to continue without any significant reorganization. I believe that some of the functions that we have at the Abbey Center that would normally be canceled because it is a 1/3 facility or 1/3 capacity facility could be moved to the community center. And I do not believe that there's any advantage to implementing rep for either of the ICE services in the Eagle Builders Center, based on the fact that the larger use and where the concerns that we've heard could be accommodated by those organizations implementing rep during that time. So that would be the reason why I believe that the community center would be a good likelihood or a good place for us to designate for that use. But I do not believe that the other facilities would be accommodating enough of our community. And given the fact that there are options for those bigger functions, I think that, in my opinion, is in the best interest of the community.
Thank you, Mayor Hoover. Councillor Swab?
Can you repeat your motion, please?
My motion would be that the community center adopts the REP program and all other town facilities remain at a 1/3 capacity.
Thank you. Any further discussion? And so I call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We will bring back Councillor Swaab's motion. I'll get you to read it just one more time and then we'll ask if there's.
And then you can return the chair to me for that.
And I will return the
Thank you.
chair to Mayor.
Thank you. So the motion, if you could repeat your motion, thank you.
I motion that council approve the change in status of the Abbey Center and the Community Center from 1/3 capacity to the restrictions exemption program.
Could I ask this as a recorded vote?
You're in charge.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask in general if there's any objection to that recorded vote for this, please. Thank you. So we have a motion to adopt Abbey Center and the Community Center as REP facilities. And that would, assuming that we're leaving other facilities at 1/3 capacity? Is that the understanding?
Oh, there could be two motions, right?
Okay, thank you. So that first motion. So I call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? So that is carried. Councillor Stendy.
I move that council approve the change in status for the remaining town facilities from 1/3 capacity to the restriction exemptions program.
Do you have any,
And I would like a recorded vote as well, please.
certainly, do you have any discussion or debate on the motion, Councillor Swab?
So from hearing from Manager Morrison and Quentin, that we can have REP programming through the 1/3 capacity. I feel, from comments that I've gotten from quite a few residents about kids and skating or hockey, that the unvaccinated parents, all of a sudden, they have to be responsible for getting ready, their kids getting ready on their own and without family support in the stands. There have been other comments where parents aren't able to get vaccinated or other circumstances, and I really feel for those parents because if they're at the rink 6 days a week, they're having to pay out of pocket twice for the rapid testing. So unfortunately for the arena, I'm glad that the Bulldogs have REP program and that we can take in the activities with tournaments and stuff if people want to implement the REP. So I'm not going to vote in favor of this.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Thank you. I have a comment. Just to note for the rapid testing, it is not only the cost, which is more expensive in Blackfalds than it is in Red Deer, I will note. It's not only the cost, it's also the time to go get the test, as well as scheduling, as it can be difficult to make that happen. So if they're not able to schedule that in, then they wouldn't be able to go and see their children, who hopefully it would be at a youth event, because if it were for something like the free skate, then kids 12 to 18 or 12 to 17 would also have to be vaccinated, because that's not a youth event. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or debates? So from my perspective, I think I made myself clear. I believe that the arenas themselves can function for the most part based on their typical use under 1/3 capacity, or when there's significant tournaments or games such as the Bulldogs, where they can declare a rep for those particular events. I think that covers most of the needs and the intention for those. I do note that the exception would be the free skate, so that may be something that at this point isn't feasible during this time. It doesn't appear to be. Maybe those restrictions will change at some point. But for me, I don't believe that the loss of free skate would be a greater loss than it would be for those people that may not be able to use the facility under REP, or if they were, it would be an excessive cost and cost of their time. So I would not be in support either of that. Any other comments or debate? So I call the question, all in favor?
Can we get the motion again, please?
So, okay, can I hear the motion again, please?
I don't have it written down, but I believe I said that council approve the change in status to the remaining town facilities from 1/3 capacity to the restrictions exemption program.
Everyone clear? All in favor? All opposed? And that motion is defeated. So that is the end of this. Councillor Bob.
Can I make a motion?
Certainly.
I move that council approve to leave the status of 1/3 capacity to the Eagle Builder Center.
I believe that that would be covered under that last motion that defeated converting to rep.
Okay.
Thank you. Any, is that clear with the administration? That based on that last motion, that all other facilities other than the Abbey Center and the community center would remain at 1/3 capacity? Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, that's the end of our business items. That brings us to action correspondence 8.1 pickleball rep advocacy letters. Everyone have an opportunity to review those? Do we have any comments or questions from administration for clarification? Seeing none, I think we would just simply need a motion to accept that for information. Councilor Stans. Any debate on that motion? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And that brings us to information items. C.O. Thompson.
Thank you, Worship. Every year about this time, we provide a calendar of Blackfalds special events. And many of these events take place over a number of dates, and it's important for council to be aware of these. We forecast for the remaining of 2021 and then further into 2022. Blackfalds is a very busy community with a lot of great events geared towards all ages and interests. So everybody we know has a busy schedule, so it makes easy planning for staff, council, volunteers by having these timelines. So this is simply information for council, and we will ensure that we populate council members of the calendars accordingly.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for administration on this calendar? Scheduled town events, 9.2 MPC Commission meeting minutes for September 28th. Which would be the last meeting that I chaired in MPC. Any comments or questions regarding that? 9.3 Eagle Builder Center lease space.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. At the October 6th Recreation, Culture and Parks Board meeting, we discussed two proposals coming forward for the Eagle Builder Center Lease Space 2. Lease Space 2 is the larger lease space next to the Bulldogs merchandise room. And two proposals being looked at were functional mobility and health and the Bulldogs. At the meeting, we were asked at the board if we could make both proposals work and to approach both proponents to see if the upstairs meeting room would be an option or the undeveloped dryland area. Both proponents were not interested in the upstairs meeting room. However, the Bulldogs were interested in the undeveloped dryland area. Due to functional mobility and health application for financial assistance coming due here in November, and seeing as a business fit within the scope of what we were looking for that space, we decided to move forward with that proposal. And the Recreation, Culture, and Parks Board agreed that we wait to see how we want to utilize that space in the undeveloped dryland area before we make a decision going forward with the Bulldogs. That's basically the information we have for that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on Eagle Builder Center lease space? Seeing on 9.4, report to council building and development permit report. Any comments on the building report or questions for administration? 9.5, Enforcement Services Monthly Report, October 2021. Any questions or comments? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I've been hoping that Manager Morrison was still going to be here to potentially answer these questions. However, just my question was in regards to the Central Alberta RCMP traffic reporting. At our last month-end report that we had seen for September, it was noted that they were going to be potentially spending more time in Blackfalds in October. However, it doesn't appear that way based on their list of where they're doing traffic enforcement at all. So my question to Manager Morrison, that hopefully he could reply to in the future would be, do we know that there is a specific time where they will be focusing their efforts in Blackfalds? Because, yeah, for this list, clearly it didn't happen in October.
I'll find that information out and provide the council.
Wonderful, thank you.
And so just to add information on that, the policing committee is meeting on December 8th. So if it hasn't been answered in a council meeting, we can certainly bring it up. Yes, Councilor Swab.
I just want to say thank you for the statistics summary report for our speed sign that was provided. I so appreciate it. And I saw the new wheels today for the Bylaw vehicle, and I saw the lights working too, and it is amazing. Thanks so much.
Wheels? Is that what you said?
Wheels, which
Oh, we
ones?
got some hemp rims or something like that. Thank you. 9.6 Bolt Transit Report. Any information or question requests from for administration? Thank you. 9.7 City, I believe that one. 9.7 Lacombe County Council highlights for October 28th. Questions or comments? Lacombe County Council meeting highlights from October 14th, 2021. Uh, 9.9 Blackfalds 2021 Blackfalds Historical Society Annual Report. Councilor Swab.
I just want to say thank you to Judy Carlton for being such an avid volunteer for Blackfalds Historical Society and also providing this report to us each year. I think it's great. And if no one has gone there in a while, they are open on Wednesdays. She's there. And she is such full of great information for our community. It's great access to have Judy, and I just appreciate this report. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and I'll comment as well. Included in that report is a link to a website that highlights, and they have, if you haven't checked this out, the link that's provided that on the spot at CA Cities Blackfall, they have some very interesting photos that have been blended there of locations in Blackfalds, superimposing historic black and white pictures over top of some current pictures, which for people that are brand new to Blackfalds, which most of us are, or even the younger people that have lived here for some time, it's quite fascinating to see what existed along some of the streets in our town before it grew out of those things. So it's something interesting for council to check out, and perhaps our residents that are watching. 9.10 Central Alberta Assessment Review Board opportunities. Questions or comments? 9.11 Gregg Street realignment updates.
I have a question.
Councilor Dennis.
When it joins from on the map here where it shows Gregg Street, and then it shows Gregg Street closer to 2A, that portion in between, is that going to be developed along with redone so that there's curbs and everything?
So Director Warren's here to answer that.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely answer that. So are you talking about the area to the east of the blue box? Or?
Yes, yeah, in between there and Highway 2A.
So all we're doing with that area, other than the connection at Lawton Avenue, would be to do an asphalt overlay and then the reconfiguration of the lanes. So you're talking about Gregg Street existing from Lawton
Yeah, right in
Avenue to
that.
Highway 2A. Yes, it's being, there'll be an asphalt overlay on the existing Gregg Street alignment, so that area is.
Is there gonna be curbs put in?
No, there's already a curb on the south side that would remain, and the one on the north side would be a edge of asphalt.
Really? All right.
So that's.
I thought it'd be nice to have it complete. Like if you go down Westwood Drive and see that situation, because they put in new pavement, didn't bother curving in one side. It looks like it's just half piece.
Thank you. Will there be an update for this project? Any more detail in any upcoming meetings?
No, your worship, the update is the scope of work that we propose. The paving on Gregg Street between the blue and the red highlighted area was actually added and will be taken out of contingency.
Thank you. Councillor Swap?
So with the new road not opening this winter, for the traffic going from Broadway onto Lomax and vice versa, and the parking lot being extremely busy, are we going to put in a three-way stop, or are we just gonna leave it and see how it rolls?
Thank you for that question. So through the chair, the two-way stop would remain, or the single stop at the T intersection would remain. However, we are putting a set of rapid flashing beacons across the east and west parking lot just south of that intersection. But no, the plan was to leave that as a single eastbound stop.
Okay, Mayor Pell.
Thank you, through the chair to Director Warren. So hearing that because of franchise delays, we will not be able to open the road this year is very unfortunate. Do we have any sort of reassurances from them that they will complete this work in a timely fashion come spring when, and I realize we can't put a date on that because things have to fall, et cetera, but do we have any sort of reassurances that they will complete the work as requested?
Yes, now that we're so late in the year, it's more of a weather delay than anything else.
Okay.
So what'll happen is they'll finish up their work before, it gets really into winter. And then everything will be ready for that coordination in the spring.
Okay, so they are still working through this point because, let's face it, it's November and it's beautiful outside. So they have still been continuing to do that work, the franchise companies.
Correct, Councillor Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are any other questions or comments for administration on the Gregg Street realignment update? Seeing that 9.12 council orientation to AUMA elected officials education program.
Thank you, Worship. This is just some additional information that transpires out of our council orientation. I did mention the AUMA elected officials program, Meeting 101, that we were close to having that program delivered here at Blackfalds. And as such, that is a case of taking place December 11th to 12th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. And so the times are there, and I think that works well for people that are working and unavailable during the week. And so there is funds budgeted for these sorts of things, and I think this is a really good training that will not only be, provide some new information for those new council members, but refresher for those who've been on council. So unless you're definitely not available, we will register everybody for that and get that attended to. So if for some reason you're not going to be here, please let me know as soon as possible so that we don't make any unnecessary registrations.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Thank you.
9.13, Recreation, Culture, and Parks Board minutes for September 1st. Questions? 9.14, Rec Board minutes for October 6th. Questions, comments? 9.15, Remembrance Day update, I guess, would be, or question?
Certainly, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
My question was for administration, just wondering what, as I realized the Blackfalds Ministerial Association or Society is no longer holding a Remembrance Day event this year. My question was, what are we planning on doing as a town to honor this important day?
Well, as a town, we've placed again, once again, the wreath and cross with lighting on the west side of the food bank building, and I think that's very effective. Because of the COVID restrictions, we are expecting to pay the respects on the day and honor those that have given so much. The cenotaph is open for anybody to come down and pay respects, and understand Mayor Hoover, yourself, and MP Culkins will be there. I believe it's 11 o'clock or around 11 o'clock.
At this point, as far as I know, it's 9:30.
Oh, 9:30, okay.
Yeah, so just to clarify for anyone watching, so MP Blaine Calkins and myself will be laying a wreath at the Blackfalds Cenotaph at 9:30. I will remain at the Cenotaph for anyone else that wishes to pay their respects. As a veteran, you know, I can also pay respects laying a wreath with the salute if they would like. So I will remain there till probably about 11:15, which would be the typical time that Remembrance Day ceremonies would tend to wrap up. So anyone else from council or the public is welcome to attend this count. Deputy Mayor Bell.
Thank you. Just a subsequent, I was actually going to mention that I did see the wreath on the west side of the food bank building there today, and I was going to say it does look very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is the extent of our information items. Can I get a motion to accept information? Councillor Staub.
I'll move to accept the information items as information.
Thank you. Any debate or comments? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. No roundtable discussion. We do have minutes, 11.1 minutes from regular council meeting, October 12th, 2021. Any errors or omissions noted? Any comments about the minutes from October 12th? Got it right. No comments, no additions, no errors noted. Any comments? None? All in favor? And that is carried. Oh, we need a motion to adopt. Sorry, can I have a motion to adopt? Or before we make a motion to accept? Councillor Sands. So, Councillor Sands, debates, comments on adopting those minutes. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. Minutes, 11.2 minutes from organizational council meeting October 26, 2021. Any errors or omissions? Councillor Stenday.
Super minor housekeeping, there's 2 L's in Councillor Staub's name.
Thank you. Now, I did note some conflicts from what I had made notes for board positions. So I just want to clarify whether or not it's an error on my part or an error in the minutes. So I did note that on those minutes, the Emergency Management Committee, I had on my notes that was Councillor Stenday, Councillor of Health. That notes me. Does anybody feel that that's not correct? That it is councillors, or it is not Councillor Stenday, Councillor of Health? That's how I had it on my notes. So if we can bring that up here, please.
What number that is?
I'd have to go back into that near the beginning.
There it is. Okay.
Does anyone disagree with that? They recall? I have on my notes that Emergency Management Committee is 2 councillors would be deputy, or Councillor Stenday and Deputy Mayor of Health. Any disagreement on that?
Worship. I'll go back and check my notes. I don't have them with me, but
Thank you. Councillor Bob.
Standing.
Sandy, sorry, oh, well, you're,
I remember it only being 2 people because I was actually bringing forward a comment about that tonight because we are required under the policy, I believe, to have 3 members. Otherwise, we don't have quorum and we can't vote on anything anyway.
okay, so I only had 2 names, so I mean, I'm clearly would be an ex officio on that committee anyhow. Just that I believe that it was yourself and Deputy Mayor Pell. Yes, Deputy Mayor Pell.
Thank you. So I don't have notes on that board specifically, so it'd be interesting to see what administration has for that. But I assume it will likely be coming forward because we do still have 2 more boards that we need to add council members to, correct?
yes.
Okay, so we're gonna adopt it as that part anyways, as presented. We will amend it later. I also noted that, let's see if I can get this right, the LCF SPAC, so that's the fire service. And so in the minutes you have Councillor Stende and Councillor Svab, and I had on my notes Councillor Svab and Councillor Dennis. Councillor Svab.
I'm pretty sure that I was the main person for that, because that's the one that meets once a year in January, if I remember.
Yeah, I did not put my name
Yeah.
forward for that.
Okay, so that, we need to amend that. That should be Councillor Svab, Councillor Dennis. And then the other one that I noted was IREC, the elementary campus. Where do I have that? It's here as myself and Councillor Dennis. On my notes, I had that as Councillor Dennis, Councillor Appel, or Deputy Mayor Appel.
Yeah,
Yes, I did have myself as an alternate for that board.
Yeah, and I had the meeting already.
Right, so with the exception of the Emergency Management Committee, where we're gonna check the notes on that, those would be the amendments we're putting forward. Any debate on that? Do I have a motion to accept as amended? Councillor Stende,
So moved.
any debate? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. No notices of motion. Does anyone have any business for the good of council? Seeing none, that ends the open part of our council meeting. I have a motion to go into a recess. Councillor Fox, all in favor? And carried. Thank you.
Sorry, Jamie.